Hello, everyone. I'm Susanna Raj. I am an independent cognitive science and AI ethics researcher. My background is in psychology and I worked in human computer interactions up to 2019. I am also a volunteer for the brand and communications program mentor at Data Ethics for All, dedicated to building data ethics, diversity in tech, and ethical tech ecosystem. I am also the founder of AI for Nomads, that is harnessing the power of AI to eradicate poverty and digital illiteracy around the globe, aligned with United Nations Sustainable Goals for 2030. I am also part of the editorial team at Women in AI Ethics, dedicated to building inclusivity and diversity in AI. I am here with my co-lead, Aishwarya Joshi, from the editorial team at Women in AI Ethics, who is also a seasoned compliance and securities consultant that has worked at companies like Ernst& Young, Warner and Media, and currently at Hulu. Welcome, Aishwarya.
Thank you, Susanna, for having me here. I'm so excited to be here with you guys.
So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself to the audience in more detail than what I have given now?
Absolutely. So my background, as Susanna mentioned, is in technology risk and compliance, and I've been doing that for the past 15 years. I'm actually in a very interesting phase in my career where I am pivoting my career and moving out of compliance and risk and technology to find a different space that I can leverage my skill set. So right now I'm exploring product management, and I'm actually a product manager at Hulu playing a consultant role. And I'm very excited. I'm exploring. So it's a very new career, lots of learning. And I'm simultaneously also educating myself on AI ethics. And it's more just reading and taking classes. So getting up to speed on the space as well.
Quite interesting, and I'm pretty sure your journey so far would be an interesting one, and that's why I wanted to hear more about it. So, can you tell us how you started on this path? How did you pick your career path? Did it pick you?
Sure. So I grew up in India. And when I was 19, I moved to the US. And prior to that, in India, I was pursuing my bachelor's in commerce. I actually wanted to be a doctor. My father was a doctor, and I was inspired by him, but I realized it was a lot of hard work, and I decided to take the easy path and get a commerce degree instead, which is also difficult, but still, I abandoned my doctor dream. And when I moved to the US, I had an opportunity to continue with my business education, but actually add management information systems. So I got a bachelor's in MIS and then pursued an accounting and MIS master's degree. And so to answer your question, you know, I picked my career, but at that point, it wasn't a very thought of process. It was more, I want to be a doctor. That's difficult. I'm not really engineering is not an aptitude for me. And so it was commerce. In India at that point, when I was growing up, there were three paths, and arts was not something that my father would approve. So it was just, it kind of was limited. Luckily, coming to the US, once I started studying in college, I realized that, there is no limitations on what you can do here. And so I did my education in MIS, and then I went on from I went on to be a technology auditor at Ernst& Young. And, when I was there for 6, 7 years, I decided to move into Warner, and the move was driven more by I wanted to do something different, because with Ernst& Young, you get to see a lot of different clients, but you don't get to become an expert in a certain business area, which is a good thing because, when you're so young and it's early on, it's a great foundation where you have the opportunity to pick the industry you want to work with. And living in LA, I was obviously, and I loved movies growing up in Bombay, which is this, the Bollywood capital of the world. And so it wasn't a difficult choice when I had an opportunity to move to Warner Brothers. And there, even though I was an auditor, I was more of a business advisor. I wanted to do something other than what I was used to doing at E&Y. And that was exactly what my team at Warner Brothers needed. So I did a lot of the operational audits, a lot driving more on the content production side versus the traditional HR and finance. So it was a lot of exploration using my audit background to do that. So I did that for 8 years. And during that time, I think 5 years ago, I had this feeling where I realized I wanted to change and I wanted to do something different, because I realized that with compliance, I'm not helping to build or create anything. I'm behind the glass. And obviously, compliance adds a lot of value because compliance gives people the opportunity to make sure that their products are fair, the books are fair. So obviously a very important function, but I think I had outgrown it. And I started typical like Google search. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I still don't know what I want to do. And that's the fun of the exploration. It's scary, but it's fun as well. And so the past 5 years, I spent reading books, doing aptitude tests. There were a bunch of coaching classes that you do, figuring out your career. So I did all of that. And even then, it was a lot of thinking. And I realized at that point, yes, I need to move out, but I don't know what I want to do. And so I was kind of in a circle of, going round and round. And then by God's blessing, I got laid off as part of the AT&T Warner merger. And what that did was it just drove me out of my comfort zone, right? Because till then I was hanging on to my job. And obviously I didn't want to leave my job and look for something that I didn't even know what I wanted to look for. But with this, the option was given to me where it was like, okay, it's time, you need to move on. And so the past year this all occurred during the pandemic. So I used that time to network with people. And I realized my network was all accounting and auditing. So it forced me to reach out, on LinkedIn to a lot of different people. I was drawn to AI because, I am passionate about technology. And I think there is a lot of value that technology brings. And I love being at the intersection and being that person who can translate technology for the business folks and also translate the business requirements for the technologists. So I love creating that bridge. And so I realized, AI is where the world is going. Let me at least understand what AI is. And that's how I fell into AI. And, with the COVID, again, it was a blessing because there were so many online events available. Everything, like I would have never met Mia because, she's in San Francisco, I'm in LA. And so now that everything was virtual, I was able to connect with her. Similarly, I was able to connect with a bunch of people in the UK doing all of these amazing work. So that's how I've stumbled upon this path. I'm still exploring.
That's such an interesting journey. And the fact that you actually spent 5 years, taking aptitude tests and trying to find who you are as a person and trying to find what area that you would like to work in. I never heard of anybody who have did that. That's like incredible. So can you tell us what you learned in those 5 years that you think it helps you even now?
Absolutely. So I think the biggest thing I learned was changing career is not a piece of cake. It's not as easy as it sounds. It's brave, right? So if you want to change your career, it's a brave thing. You're trying to do something that a lot of people think of but don't do it. And so I ended up reading a lot about how did people go about it, what was their path, and I was more interested in, for lack of better words, what were the failures, right? Because I want to be prepared, right? Like financially, what does that mean? Physically, emotionally, how do I prep for it? Especially because I don't know what I want to do, right? Like I know that I want to do something different and it's in my soul and, I can feel it, but I just, it's not like I want to be a chef. If I knew I wanted to be a chef, it would still be an easy transition. Yes, an auditor moving from chef is not easy, but at least I can take structured classes and structured courses. So what I learned was it's a risk, be aware of it. There'll be times when you're not going to have a good day. So, have tools. So during the summer of your years, like have tools. So I used, I have a lot of tools to keep me positive. I have a lot of journaling that I do when I'm having a bad day because, it's not fun when you're trying to change and you talk to, like I have spoken to at least 40 or 50 people, doing either informational interviews, sending emails, chasing people on LinkedIn. And again, most of these people are not in my network, right? So I'm just a random face or a name which says compliance. And then they're thinking, okay, like what is, like people have this preconceived notion about compliance and audit, which is not positive, unfortunately. And so it just, it's just like I'm fighting with a lot, like it's an uphill battle. And so from all of those 5 years of soul searching was, why are you doing it, right? Like what is your motivation? Is it to get more money? Because that's not the right motivation. You can get exhausted. So the motivation was, I know I can contribute. I know that I can do something different. And I know that that calling is there and I need to make the effort to search it out. Either I can sit and complain saying, somebody else knows what they want to do, but I don't know. And the only person who is responsible for that is me because I haven't taken time till now to figure that out. So it just motivated me to keep trying new things, push myself. And when I had a bad day, I had my tools and I looked at it. I have amazing friends, an amazing support system, and they kept telling me, you can do this. And so here I am today, even though I don't know what I'm doing. I know I'm doing something different and I'm absolutely happy where I am. So,
Yes, it is, everybody who has, pivoted their careers or, trying to find their path always feels like there is more, something more that I could do that I'm not doing. So it's always that question of being limited in what you're trying to achieve with your skills, with your talents. So you also had that feeling, and that's how you started moving into that space. That's such an interesting, perspective to have on life, right? And the fact that you had, so much support, and and you are also a very spiritual and very introspective person, right? So that's why you are able to navigate this. But there are people who are so much unlike you, and maybe they may not even have the support system that that you actually built for yourself. You didn't have like a entire network supporting you, but you built your own support system. So how will you tell women or even anybody that's going through this journey to build that system for themselves? What kind of advice would you give them? I'm only asking this because it seems like you are an expert on this. After 5 years doing this, you are an expert in this.
so I think a few things, right? It, so you're right. Like I didn't have the network, right? Obviously, the support system that I have are amazing friends and family that I've had for years, but none of them were in the fields that I was looking for. None of them were, you know, counselors or consultants who could actually have a conversation with me, right? It was more like I can pick up the phone and cry and say, oh my God, why am I doing this? And then they can say, no, let me remind you, this is your goal and you need to keep at it, right? And that's huge. So I think for anybody who's starting on this path, know that changing careers is a huge deal. And you're brave, you're at the start line. So to me, and this is quoting one of my triathlon coaches who said, you're a winner every time you're at the starting line. And you are here, you've decided you want to change your career and realize that it's not going to be bed of roses. But awareness is knowledge, right? Like knowing that you're going to need all the emotional strength. There are going to be bad days, and you're not just going to topple into it. And look at me, like I still don't know what I exactly want, but it's a journey. And every time I learn something new, I'm constantly, enjoying it. Do I have moments where I feel like I'm not an expert and I don't know anything? Yes, I do have those moments. And then I lean back on my tools. So my biggest advice is a like pat yourself on the back. You're here, you're at the start line, you're already a winner, you want to do something different. And that is huge because a lot of people think that they want to do something different but don't have the courage to do it. So once you have the courage, then figure out why you want to do it, right? What is your motivation? Is it more money, which is fine? Is it a different set of skills? Like once you clearly write out what is motivating you, I think that helps you, right? For me, it was like you said, I knew that I needed to do something different. I don't know what that is, but the calling was really strong. And so, be very clear what that is. And then we are so fortunate that we are in this digital world where even if you don't have mentors. So when I started this journey 5 years ago, I didn't really have mentors. I started leaning into mentors a little late in life, and it's not anybody's fault. I just didn't know how to ask for mentorship, right? It was something that wasn't taught. I was always in this space of how do I ask you for help? Like, what am I giving you in return? And it's a very wrong thought process, but it took me like 10, 12 years of corporate America, and I missed out on so many amazing people that could have been my mentors, right? So it's the same thing that what I learned early on through this process is even if you don't have a mentor today, you can go online. If you think highly of somebody, even if it's a current CEO, they write books, they write articles, you can think to be like them. If you're interested in a specific field, pick 5 people, follow them on Twitter, educate yourself. They can be your mentor. They can be a digital mentor, even though they're not physically there. You can understand and be like them. And you build your support system by being out of your comfort zone, which obviously changing career is out of your comfort zone. So you have to take the next step and just start reaching out to people. And I have done it, and I know that what rejection feels like. I know what feels like when you send out a LinkedIn email and you wait and you're like, why is this person not responding? And you sit there thinking, what have I done wrong? And then you're like, I'm not worth it. And you go into that. But sometimes it just takes one person to change your life. And I met Mia, but it wasn't the first connection. It took me 50 people. And I met her through her mentoring program. And she wasn't a mentor, it was my mentor at the mentoring program who connected me with her. And it was a few conversations later, and I volunteered, and that's how I got connected. But it was undreamed of, right? Like, I didn't know I would ever meet somebody like her or people like you, right? It was just a connection. So it hasn't happened out of the blue. You have to make in the work. So be very clear on what you want to do. Be aware that this is a difficult path, but you have to do a lot of work, and that's okay, because you will get the the fruit. And have no expectations, meaning don't say, if I've sent 50 emails, the 51st email should give me a response, or I should do this in 1 year, or my friend did this and they took 3 months, and why am I taking 3 years? I think when we start comparing ourselves, it's very negative and we push ourselves back. This is your life, this is about you, it's about nobody else. And you have the power because you are brave enough to be here, and you have to see this through. And the only reason I've survived is I'm persistent. I don't understand the concept of this can't be done. If this is something I really want, I am defeated, and I can go to sleep thinking this is not going to happen. And then I wake up the next day and I'm ready to fight again. But it's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding.
You're a fighter, so that's why you are
We all are
here.
fighters, right? We all are fighters. I think I've just developed that instinct in the last year or so. And so it's nothing unique to me. I think we're all amazingly powerful people. Sometimes we just need extraordinary situations to bring that out. So,
That's definitely true. That's definitely true. And especially when you talk about rejections, even the LinkedIn emails and the cold emails that you send out and you don't get a response. Can you also talk about, the rejections that come when you apply for, jobs in your new area that you want to move in? Those are the biggest, hitters on your self-esteem, right?
oh, the funny story is, at least the new jobs, you can say, I understand why they don't want me. I don't have experience. But I applied for 90 jobs, 90 last year, in compliance. And I'm a seasoned compliance professional with really strong companies on my background. And I'm thinking, 90 jobs and I'm getting rejected. And you can imagine what I went through. And these were either positions that I was overqualified or I more than matched everything. And the only thing, two things kept me going. One was the universe is telling me I don't want to go back to compliance. And so it's supporting me because that's the thought I put out there. Yes, I'm applying for compliance job because that's what I'm qualified on a piece of paper, unless somebody else takes a chance on me. And the second thing that kept me going was I know who I am, right? And so I know that I'm better than the rejection rate. And just because somebody rejected me does not change the fact that my resume is what it is. And I have the validations from all the bosses that I work with. Like all of that exists. So I have to sometimes remind myself. And it's a self-talk, it's writing a letter to yourself, whatever works for me, like for you, like I journal a lot and I do a lot of those, you got this, like you can do this. And so imagine having 90 job rejections for a field that you are qualified for. So I think I can handle the product management rejection at this point.
That's that's incredible. I mean, like, I know that's gonna hit you really hard on the self-esteem, right? When you are actually you have like 15, 16 years of experience in that field and you have worked with, name brands and still to get that is really hard. So can you tell, like, let's talk about like one thing that you're most proud of in your entire life and one thing that you are least proud of?
Sure. So I'm going to start with the least proud of, so you forget about it and you can just focus on the most proud of. So, and this is something that I'm working on, and I know you and I have like talked about it, but I'm least proud of putting myself down. So I create my own mental barriers. I don't take credit for who I am sometimes. And so I play it down, not in a very positive way. And I think, I'm trying not to be egoistic, but I know you and I have talked about it when, other executives have told me the same thing. It's like, don't underplay this. Like, this is an achievement. Own it, because it's not fair. Somebody else is going to own it. So I'm not proud of that, but I'm working through it. And by saying it out on the internet, I think it'll keep me real and force me to keep working on it. Something that I'm really proud of, it's a big deal for me, is I did a triathlon a couple of years ago. And for me, it's a classic distance triathlon. So not an Ironman, none of that. I know there are like amazing athletes out there, but growing up in India, I admired athletes. Nobody from my family is athletes. We have engineers and doctors and lawyers and researchers, but I didn't know anybody in my family or my network who was athletes. So, but I used to watch a lot of TV and American TV, and I would see these athletes. And what I loved about them was they push themselves, and it's not, not to come first or second. It's literally to push themselves. There is a lot of pain being an athlete, but they're so positive, and there is persistence, right? And it's you're pushing yourself, and you want to get to a better level. So even if you come first today, you want to do better. You want to beat your time. It doesn't matter. So it's always about not what the world is expecting. They set their own boundaries, and it's a lot of hard work, and it takes a lot of willpower. And I just loved it. And I was like, oh my God, I can never be an athlete. And so when I was at Warner Brothers, I had this opportunity to participate in a triathlon with the company. And again, I've never, I was literally on the couch. I hike, right? I'm in LA. I can hike for 5 miles, but hate running. I hate running. I have biked. Yeah, like beach biking, like not mount. I didn't even own a bike. And swimming, like, I thought I knew how to swim till I started the team, and my coach was like, hey, sweetie, just want to break it to you, you don't know how to swim. So clearly I was like, okay, why am I doing this? And my friends were like, what is wrong with you? You're going to die. But so for me, it was important because it was completely out of my comfort zone. This was, I didn't know how to do any of these things. I was fighting a lot of fear, but I realized, what, this is it. I have to do this. It was also a moment where I was vulnerable because these are people I work with. They are my clients. This is the one, and the entire Warner Brothers team that shows up for all of this. Like, I meet them at work. Some of them are my teammates, but most of them are clients, and I'm an auditor, right? And like, it's just one of those things. It's like, oh my God, they're going to laugh at me because, I'm not an athlete, and I'm not going to pretend and say I can run fast. I can barely run, right? And so you're training with these people, and you feel like they're going to judge you. And I had all of those preconceptions, but I had made up my mind, and I was like, this is it. Like, you're never going to get this opportunity again, and go for it. And so I ended up doing that. I made amazing friends. There were clients. There was a person that I was actually auditing at that point, and he was getting like a ineffective audit report. So it's bad. Like, it was like, he had failed the audit, and he was one of the most highly accomplished athlete on the team. And so the first meeting, literally, I kid you not, I show up to my coach's house, and she's like, I want you to meet Sean, and he's going to be, and I was like, oh no, can there be anybody else? He's going to actually kill me. And he was like, oh, so you just gave me a bad audit report, and now you want me to be your mentor and train you for the triathlon? Oh, great, let's do this. How can I make this difficult for you? And he was joking, obviously, but it's one of those things. Like, I just learned that people were so amazing. I was like one of the last 15 people when I used to train, and the entire team, they would wait till we all finished. And sometimes they would have to wait for an hour or 2 hours. So I learned so much about leadership, team spirit, letting go of fear. So, it's sometimes the stupidest thing I've done, I think, because I could have died, because I almost drowned a week before the triathlon. Even from a biking standpoint, you're training on PCH, right? So even trained athletes sometimes have accidents. And so obviously I'm not a trained athlete. So it was, I was taking a lot of risks. I didn't tell my mother about it, but it worked out. I think it's, the craziest thing I've done. Do I do it anymore? No, I did it twice. And my bike now hangs as a piece of art at home. But I am a triathlete. Nobody can ever take that away from me.
Of course. I mean, that's incredible. Congratulations. That's really incredible. I mean, to do that, I just cannot imagine anybody, going out of, like an auditor going on a
You want to
triathlon.
do it, Susanna? Are you saying you want to do it? You want to do it? Let's do this together.
So that is something you have accomplished as part of a group, right? It was a team effort as well as an individual effort. Anything that you just totally out of your comfort zone. You went on your own and did something, and then it actually worked out and you surprised yourself.
Yes. So this was again, I've been on this journey of trying new things. And so it's like a couple of years ago, I was in Vienna, I was traveling, and I realized that I knew nothing about art or history or architecture. And my sister is, she knows a lot about art and architecture, even though that's not her background. And it just never interested me. And for some reason, when I was in Vienna, I just felt like I need to learn more. And how do I learn more? And so when I came back, I basically decided to join the Getty Center as a docent and do architecture tours and garden tours. I'm clueless about architecture. I have never taken a docent tour at the Getty. I've been to the Getty twice. They have an intense interview process, screening process, all of that. And I'm just like, I applied for it because it was knowing that I wouldn't get in, right? It was a list of goals. And sometimes you want to say, okay, I tried and then cancel it. And I was like, there is no way they're going to accept me because I have no experience. And I got accepted. And I was like, okay, this is a joke. Like, oh my God. And so I had to show up, did intense training, and I surprised myself. I'm not a public speaker. I was super nervous. I'm an introvert. And my friends were like, you hate public speaking. You're clueless about architecture. You barely ever go to museums. You don't really care about art. So I don't understand. What are you doing? I was like, I'm just trying something new. Like, I've never done these things. So go for it. Right. And so for me, the biggest thing was, what's the risk? You go there, you make a fool of yourself. It's with people you don't work with. They're going to forget about you. They have no idea. This is the less riskiest environment to do it. And I surprised myself. Like, I had no idea. I loved it so much. Like, I would go there and I'm like, there was this passion and I just was so drawn. And Getty does a great job training you, but I had no idea that existed. And now at this point, I'm hooked on to museums, and I attend every museum I go to. I attend the docent talks. I never used to do that. And I was completely surprised. I was like, is that me? Like, and I would have this feeling. I did it for 2.5 years. And every time, I kid you not, I would go there. I had to go almost every weekend. I would just be like, that's me. Like, oh my God, that's me. I don't believe this, right? It's just one of those things where, so
Oh,
I've learned, like, never say no. You never know what you're going to find out.
awesome. I think that's like fits in so with the theme of this, IoT Council Day. It's like career pivot, but it career pivot is also about trying out new things and having the courage to do that and to never say no and to not look at failure as a negative thing, but as actually as a learning experience. So I'm so happy that you could share all this with everybody who is maybe even thinking of changing a career or trying to go in a new direction or trying to learn something new. So it's like really incredible. I was not wrong about you, right? Because I knew that you would have some real rare jewels to share with all of us. So I was really right about that. So in term, because of it, this is an IoT, Internet of Things Day. What do you think of technology, and where do you think it's going in the next 5 years?
So what do I think about technology? I love technology. Technology is very powerful, and it has the potential to make change. And it doesn't matter if you adopt it or not. We are surrounded by technology. There is, at this point, like, I'm hanging on to my dumb TV, for lack of better words, because I don't want to have a smart TV. Because being a cybersecurity auditor and being aware of the amount of data that IoT devices carry, like, having that insight, like, I am very cautious as to I get like Amazon Echo. I just got that as a gift and I returned it because I'm a technology cybersecurity person. Like, I know what happens with this information. I don't want to use it. So where is technology going in 5 years? I don't think I have an exact answer to it, but I know that there is a lot of work happening, and I hope that technology focuses on issues like climate change and health. Even though every industry is using technology, and industry can use technology in a variety of ways, but I hope that the priority is there, because technology can definitely improve life and save life, and technology can definitely help with the climate change issue that is so critical for us. So, you know, the hope is no matter where technology is going, I hope that these items are on a higher priority list for people responsible for developing these products.
So, what is the one thing that we can all do to make that happen?
I think education, right? Two things. So we, for people who are joining in on this conference, they are technology savvy. They have the knowledge, but there are, that's a very small percentage. We all have our own lenses. I know a lot about compliance because, and media and industry because that's where I sit. I don't know anything about healthcare because, I haven't worked in that industry. My lens is very different. So what you and I can do and people who understand technology is educate people who are using, and awareness, like I said before, is power. So yes, you want to use those IoT devices to, make your house more comfortable, but be aware of what data you're sharing so that you have the power versus you finding out later. So how do you do education? I think, obviously having classroom curriculums, but also a lot of free online courses, talking to your friends, talking to your family. And I know it sounds simple, but everybody has connected devices right now. We are all using IoT devices from our cars to our fridge to our baby monitors, but just asking the simple question of, do you realize this is always on? Do you realize that you can turn it off? You're not telling them not to use it, right? It's just very simple things of even Wi-Fi, like Wi-Fi should have passwords, stuff like that. So I think we who understand technology better than a lot of other people have an opportunity and I think even a duty to educate. And it's not a big deal, right? It's not, no, you're not asking people to give out slides. You're just talking to your family or to your grandmother and educating them because we are all impacted by it.
Yes.
So nothing comment.
That is the path I am on, educating people, bringing awareness, just simple things, learn about it, talk about it to your friends. I mean, as once we are all awakened as a public, then these things will not. I feel like, the power has been taken from us and we need to give it back to ourselves.
Absolutely.
So yes, definitely. And you have so much experience in this area of securities and compliance, and you are also have learned about AI ethics, and you have taken ethics training. I know it's a new area for you, but how do you think your skills in those areas transfer to your new career path that you want to go on, product development or product management? How do you think they transfer?
So luckily they're interrelated and, because again, I didn't choose product management. I was very fortunate that I landed at Hulu, and my boss recognized my talent and kind of, said, hey, I think you have these skills. Why don't you learn a little more about it? And what I realized through that process is, again, what I've learned about AI in the past is how do you plan an AI project? Like there is a whole strategy of planning and what are the different steps, but that's nothing but product development. So obviously the product development that I'm working on right now has nothing to do with AI. It's just traditional systems, but eventually the same concept of, what business problem are you trying to solve? Like what are the issues? When you create this product, who is it serving? Is it serving your customers? So the same skills that I'm learning for product management can be applied. And I think they're not even separate careers because eventually, once we start having products that use AI, you need, just like you have compliance right now, any system needs to have compliance. AI ethics is going to become a part of it. The minute you have data and AI ethics, and all systems and all companies use data. So, I think it's very transferable and it's related.
Awesome. So I do wish you all the best in your new career path, and I hope you will come back and tell us more about how it went because we need to hear the success stories as well, right? Somebody who has struggled to transition and who went through this journey and trying to find her own path and then actually succeeded in finding her path and, flourishing in that. So I hope we will have a sequel to this interview and have you come back and tell us more about your journey there. Thank you, Aishwarya, for coming on at such short notice and talking with all of us today here. Thank you
Thank,
so much.
thank you, Susanna. Love being
Thank
here.
you.
Bye.
Bye.